Welcome, everyone, to Coleman Report Live, April 17th edition. We are post-PPP, but we're waiting for more allocations. We have a special guest for you today. Stephen Keene is the Vice President of Congressional Relations at ICBA. Welcome, Stephen, and tell us what's going on and what you're working on.
Hi, thanks a lot. As you mentioned, I'm VP of Congressional Relations with ICBA. In short, I'm the lobbyist for ICBA that's been working on this from the beginning. As you all know, the program recently ran out of funds, effectively shutting down PPP lending for the time being. We have been pushing for an additional $250 billion or perhaps even more in funding as soon as possible. As you likely saw recently, Leader McConnell brought up just a clean two-page, simply adding $250 billion to the program without doing any other reforms, and Democrats blocked it. And so since that time, they've entered into negotiations. The funding obviously lapsed, and that's where we are today. They are negotiating as we speak. Just last night, there was a meeting with Schumer, Pelosi, and Mnuchin. So they are working through it. At this time, the two main points that the Democrats seem to be pushing is additional funding for hospitals and additional state and local funding. The state and local funding seems to be a bit of the holdup because there's a debate about exactly how you design some of these formulas. In the first batch of funding on that side of things, there seemed to be a belief that big cities did very well and counties and small towns really didn't and were left behind. So there's an effort to fix that. On the banking side, the Democrats are pushing for $125 billion in new PPP funding, but also $125 billion kind of set aside in various buckets. They would take $60 billion of that in dedicated funding for community bank lenders. 45 of that would be for CDFIs, MDIs, certified development corporations, micro lenders, and then probably more important to all of you, they also throw in small banks and credit unions with under $10 billion in assets. For your awareness, what ICBA is lobbying for is for 25% of the 250 to be earmarked for banks under $50 billion. There's a little bit of fear for small community banks that for such a limited amount of funds that could come online, the larger institutions could move mass amounts of money very quickly and not leaving enough for community banks. So we're pushing to have that set aside for community banks. Other plans in the Democrats' proposal include $50 billion more for the EIDL loans and $15 billion for the Emergency Economic Disaster Grant Program. But basically, the long story short is we are monitoring negotiations. They're still working on this. The one big thing to keep in mind is both the House and Senate are still in recess with the members not actually in town. And so that forces Congress into a position where they have to move everything either by unanimous consent agreement or by voice vote. And that enables just one single member of either chamber to really throw a wrench in things. So as you saw with the initial passage of the CARES Act, Congressman Massey was able to request a roll call vote, at which time they actually needed a quorum in the House and they had to bring back a number of the members to do that. Hopefully that won't be the case this time, but it is a more complicated negotiation than what would normally be with the House and Senate in session. So those are all the different dynamics at play. The big question, obviously, is timing. And I would say at this stage, what we're hearing internally is we expect some deal to be struck and passed early next week. For your awareness, the Senate right now is scheduled to be in on April 20th, April 23rd, April 27th, and April 30th. So they're not scheduled to be in every single day. But that being said, they could have a sort of an emergency pro forma session to pass something quickly if they needed to. So that's kind of the lay of the land here. Hopefully they work over the weekend and get something done. and we can get this program up and running by Monday or Tuesday of next week.
Thank you, Steve. Wonderful. It's not wonderful news, but it's a great update. Go ahead, Lance.
Hey, Steve, the only thing I can tell you is we need more than $250 billion.
Yes, and that is not gone unnoticed. I mean, I think 250 million or billion. I mean, we saw how fast they moved. 350. It might be a week, 2 weeks maybe. So it's certainly not getting to June 30th. So it's a challenge, and I can tell you just in my personal conversations with McConnell staff, they have said, you know, we are trying to manage expectations that every time this runs dry, we'll just automatically refill it, which I take as very bad news. So we're working through it. We're aware that that number is not sufficient, but that's just where negotiations are currently.
Thank you, Steve. We look forward to seeing what happens, and we'll talk to you guys next week once we get a vote. I mean, hopefully they work over the weekend. Lance, we got the guidance on the 6-month debt relief payments. Have you looked at these?
I scanned it. Of course, we've all been waiting for some additional information about how this is going to work, because we've all went out and communicated. I think we've all communicated to our customers that they were going to get 6 months worth of payments made. One of the big questions is how are we going to report this? And in the 1502 dashboard, there is a CARES Act menu now in the 1502 dashboard that has a way for banks to report the information about the loans that are going to need payment, the 6 months payments. There's also a special Excel template on the Coleman website that can be used as well. So there's 2 ways to report the loans that the payments are going to be made on. One is in the 1502 dashboard. One is a Excel template. So there's some work to be done. Those reports need to be in to SBA by April 22nd, which, my calculation, what is that? Saturday, Sunday, Monday, that's Wednesday of next week.
Hurry up, folks. Yeah.
So whoever works on your 1502 reporting, hopefully there's an automated way to populate the reports, depending on the size of your portfolio. But if the report goes in by the 22nd, it appears that SBA is saying in this information notice that the monies will come to the bank by April 30th. Again, after this.
And just to clarify, 504 is May 1st. 7A is April 30th, but you do have to get your ACH credit approval to SBA, and you have to report to Coleman before you can set that up.
Well, and after this initial, the reporting typically is, well, not typically, the due date for reporting each month thereafter is the 10th.
Mm-hmm.
And SBA will make payments by the 25th. So we've gotten a lot of questions about the timing of the payments. At least we know what the requirements are now. The other thing that there were quite a number of questions about is what loans would actually be covered. I got emails from people, can we hurriedly push one that's in liquidation back into regular servicing? And the answer to that question is no, it needs to be in regular servicing. The other thing to look at, sometimes you will have loans in regular servicing that may be past due. And SBA has clarified any loan that's 120 days or more past due in regular servicing will not be considered for the 6 months worth of payments. So no liquidation status loans will be covered, nor will any loans that are in regular servicing that are 120 days or more past due. That's pretty generous definition.
Can you give us an explanation on it? If you put the loans into deferment before March 27th, are they the notice said that they're not removed from regular servicing status?
Yeah, if you put a loan in deferment prior to the CARES Act implementation, that deferment will occur if it's 3 months, it'll be 3 months, and then the 6 months worth of payments will occur after the deferment is complete. We, as an institution, paused on deferments to wait and get guidance. So any deferments that we had in place were just for that 1 month. So their 6 months payments will kick in April. But again, if you have a deferment that was already in place, say you had a 3-month deferment, that deferment will still occur, and the 6 months payments will occur after the deferment is complete.
Are you seeing your borrowers paying their loan payments? And if so, I have heard that you can accept payments and then either tack it on to the 6 months, or there's all sorts of different approaches
There are
to
a couple of options. You can turn around and send the payment back. I mean, you need to communicate with the customer and give them the options. You can turn around and send the payment back, or the customer has the option to apply it to principal balance.
Some of these payments are, I mean, this is a huge deal. $17 billion is if you have big monthly payments, it's a lot of relief. It's significant, right?
There are some customers of mine who actually got more relief from the 6 months worth of payments being made than they got from their PPP loan.
We got a bunch of questions. Would it be possible to extend the covered loan period past June 30th? I think that answer is no. Yeah. Well, why does the 6 month of SBA payments on current portfolio not cover outstanding balance on construction loans? Have you heard anything on that?
The thing that really disappointed me in the information notice that was released is it didn't address construction loans, and I think there's a lot of confusion on, if you've got a construction loan that's not fully dispersed. I would be hesitant to give guidance on that because there was no information about how to deal with construction loans in this. My gut feeling is that those construction loans, it'll pay the interest payments during that 6 month period. But it would have been nice to get some additional guidance from SBA on how to deal with construction loans or loans that are not fully dispersed. Now, guys, on your revolving lines of credit, always remember it's considered fully dispersed at the time of the first disbursement. So they're fine. But, the question becomes, what is the appropriate way to deal with a construction loan? And in the information notice, I did not get guidance that helped me to understand how that's going to work.
We have, this is a great question, and we're going to cover this extensively on our webinar next Tuesday, but what is the actual cutoff date of regular servicing? Is it 60 days? Is it 90 days?
Well, the definition of your regular servicing or liquidation is a drop-down box in E-Train. Mm-hmm. So historically, if a loan became 60 days or more past due, you would go ahead and move it into liquidation. But that's not always the case. Maybe you have a workout in process, or the customers came to you and said, hey, we're going to catch it up in the next couple weeks. But normally 60 days was kind of the identifying time period for whether it's in liquidation or regular servicing. Now, as we all know, loans sometimes get left in regular servicing and they may be more than 60 days past due. And I think SBA clearly defined if it's in regular servicing and it's 120 days past due as of March 27th, it will not be considered for the 6 months payments.
Katie, let's bring you in. What did you talk about for Fraud Friday?
Sure. So for Fraud Friday today, we published about 2 Michigan farmers who are now heading to trial over about $68 million worth of bank fraud. And what happened was in 2012, Melissa and Michael Stamp, who own a family farm, had to apply for bankruptcy. And when they filed for bankruptcy, Melissa was kind of questioned, and it kind of came out that possibly she was lying about their assets and what was going on. So the Secret Service, the IRS, and Department of Agriculture opened a fraud investigation to find out what was going on there. And what they found was in 2011, they applied for a $68 million loan from Wells Fargo, and they overstated the amount of land that they farmed and the value of the company's assets. And what happened is they got the funds, they were beginning to use them, they even applied for some crop insurance. And then, of course, on the crop insurance, they also lied to their insurance company about that amount of land that they were covering and things like that, too. And so in last year, they were questioned, and they had some, Melissa ended up in prison for a short period of time. And now that they're bringing this fraud case to, it looks like they started off saying that they were going to plead guilty. And then this last week they said, no, never mind, we're going to go ahead and go through with the trial. So if they are found guilty, that could be up to 15 years in federal prison.
Unbelievable. And we keep on saying this every Friday, it seems like, man, so Katie's going to be very busy with these PPP
stuff. They stole $68 million and they might do 15 years in jail.
Yeah. Well, folks, we're giving you two options to do this 6-month webinar. We're going to do it on Tuesday next week because of how fast SBA is asking for everything. If you can't make next Tuesday, we have Wednesday the following week on the 29th. And it's going to be a good one. Lance is going to tell you everything you need to do to get these relief checks. I mean, so if you have any further questions, you can email me, joseph@colemanreport.com. Lance, I think it's been a long week for all of us. We look forward to seeing what's coming out of Washington. Stephen, I don't know if you're still there, but we do appreciate your comments. And a significant amount.
Yep, I'm still here.
Oh, hey. A significant amount of effort is being worked on, for community banks, for small banks that did not get to even get a chance to do the initial round of PPP funding, right?
Hey, Joe.
Yes, absolutely. I mean, we had a lot that couldn't even get into the system until relatively recently, and then just a few days later, the whole program shuts down. It was not a great situation.
Right. Go ahead, Lance.
Hey, I just wanted to apologize for all the people that have been sending questions. On a normal day, I might get 5 to 6 questions about SBA lending, and I'm easily able to respond. Guys, the number of questions that have been sent to my personal and work email, appreciate the questions. I've been immersed in PPP. So if you did not get a response to me, I just want to apologize, and I know you all understand.
Yeah. Everyone try to have a good weekend, and we'll see you on Monday. We're going to be back every day next week, 1 p.m. Eastern. So enjoy your weekend.
Have a great weekend.
Take care, everyone.